Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here, and welcome to everybody here in the room today. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. My name is Albert Tucker. I'm the Executive Director of the American Tennis Association, and also bringing greetings from the United States Tennis Association in support of a wonderful program here in Bradenton. The American Tennis Association, which is the oldest sports organization in the nation, founded in 1916, is proud to be a sponsor and a partner in this wonderful project called the Panda Project. As you know, in Bradenton, as around the world, we have a lot of issues that are going on in our communities. And with a project like the Panda Project, we have something that I think will change the lives of many individuals, starting from the 6 and under and taking it all the way to our youth and to our individuals going to college. Today we have a special treat where we will have not only the Panda that will not talk to you, but will illustrate how important this project is, but a special welcome from a gentleman by the name of Bob Davis. Bob Davis and I have gone back many years in terms of the world of tennis and the sport of tennis, I should say. But the project that's being brought to you in this community today is something that he has had on his shoulders for many, many years. And when you look at what he's been able to do, not only on the local level, we have to commend him for what he's doing on the national level, because today, what you will see here in Bradenton County, in Manatee County, in this community, will be something that will be replicated in other cities around this nation. So when you look at this 3, 4, 5 years from now, you'll know that the heart of this program began right here in your community. So for those that are here from a sponsorship perspective, those that are here from a support perspective with the organizations that are representing Bradenton and this community, we thank you so much for your participation. But most importantly, we thank Manatee Hospital for hosting this event. Let's give them a round of applause. They took out a leap of faith in getting behind the project, because I know when Bob first presented it, it was just a concept. But today it's a reality. And at this moment, what I like to do is to bring the man, the vision, the person who's put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and most importantly, a lot of his heart. And when you talk about time, that's one thing, but when you talk about heart, that's something totally different. His heart has been in this project for probably more than 10, 15 years. Today it's coming to fruition through the support of those that are around the table and in this community. Let's give a round welcome to Mr. Bob Davis.
Albert, thank you very much for that warm introduction. Let me tell you why we're here. We have some dire statistics that tell us that in America, our kids are in big trouble. Dropout rate is 8 to 9% nationally, but in urban centers, that number is far higher. Even nationally, the Hispanic dropout rate is about 18%, and in certain school systems around the country, for example, Atlanta, the dropout rate is in the neighborhood of 50%. That's a frightening statistic, but it is a reality in 2011. The other very, very important piece of this project is that our children don't recognize the difference between emergency and preventive health, which is why Manatee Memorial Hospital's role in this project is so, so important. Our children need to understand the value of preventive health. They need to understand the issues about childhood obesity. Let me give you an example. In a recent study conducted by Harvard University, they reported that for the children born in the year 2000, 30% of Caucasians, 50% of African Americans and Hispanics, and 80% of Native Americans will be diagnosed with either diabetes or diagnosed as obese by the time they're 35. Another frightening statistic. Now, before I'd like to thank again Vern Desir and the hospital here for joining us on this project, and the American Tennis Association, as well as the USTA. But let me tell you a bit about the genesis of the Panda Project. Back in 1988, tennis legend Arthur Ashe and his friend and the greatest tennis coach in the history of this sport, tennis, Nick Bollettieri, created in their minds a program called the Ashe Bollettieri Cities Program. They asked me to direct that program. They chose as the first program the city of Newark, which at that time possessed the largest dropout rate and was recognized as the auto theft capital of the United States. Dire circumstances in that city, and we changed lives. That program cost the city of Newark $400,000 a year, and if anybody has ever dealt with the city, they know how long it takes to get your money. The gentleman I'm about to introduce to you put that money up front to make sure that we had the kind of impact on the children that we did. And we put 400 kids out of the Ashe Bollettieri program into college. Many of them are coaching tennis today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the man that was a visionary in creating this program in 1988, Mr. Nick Bollettieri.
Well, that's a heck of an introduction. You know, only Italians get introductions because the payola is paid under the table. Let's go back to 1987. We were sitting on a red bench at the French Open. And Arthur looked over at me. He said, Nick, what are we going to do about the hundreds of thousands of boys and girls that'll never get to strike a ball, never get to play anything? So, you know, being Italian, I said, don't worry about it, Arthur, I'll take care of it. Well, we did take care of it. And I can remember walking into the Newark Park. Policemen had guns. And Arthur turned around. He said, Nick, are we coming back? Yes. Then we'll go in. The biggest enemy in the world is to promise people something, do it one time, and then have no follow-up program. You're better off not doing it at all. That's called false hope. 2, 7 years ago, we're walking through the airport, and I said to my wife, man, look at over there, man. Look at the size of those kids. So my wife said, what are you going to do about it? So I did something about it. We formed Camp Kaizen, and we take 28 young girls between the ages of 10 and 14 up to our farm in Vermont and the prep school that we hire. And my foundation pays for about 90% of it. What we do at this camp is different than most camps. No specific sports. We do things that these kids can do on their limited budgets, broken families, mother working 2 jobs. We teach them about how to eat in proportions, how to do some exercise that doesn't cost you a lot of money, and then we have what we called continued education by staying in touch with these girls every 2 or 3 weeks. When Bob came over to speak to me about this, you know, I was delighted, and I talked about a couple of things. First of all, this program should be directed around physical activities, and tennis is the vehicle to get to physical activity, because part of the program should be placed on skipping rope, walking, hiking, walking with your parents on the weekend. So the physical part of this will be more attractable than just hitting a tennis ball. And that's very, very important. We all know why there's not very much tennis in America in the high elite areas is because we're now competing against the world. We're now competing against countries that are very hungry. And they don't have basketball, cheerleading, football, and everything else. And we have a word called education. The biggest part of this program is to give children hope that they can achieve And by doing this, they'll do much better in school. They'll build up their self-esteem. Their grades will get better. And hopefully, in time, they can go to college on some partial scholarships. Andre Agassi at this time, last year graduated at first 100 from his charter school. Every one of them went to college, every one of them. So to get a community involved, don't use the word champions. Don't use that at all. What you're doing is getting children together that have nowhere to go. You're going to give them an activity, and the activity is going to be tennis. I'm going to get Bob in charge of the greatest little program in the country, and it's done in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's the only board I sit on. It is the greatest little kids program of the United States. I'll get the videos sent to Bob. Next, let me tell you a few stories. Back in 1964-65, I was the director of tennis in Springfield, Ohio. And kids came every Wednesday and Saturday for 5 cents, 1,500. Blacks, yellows, greens, all different people. Because I grew up in North Pelham, New York with blacks, Irish, and Italians. So this isn't new for Nick Bollettieri to be helping the children down under that need help. So there was a program done down in, may I say, Wilberforce. And it was a great black championship. So I said, can I put my white girl in there? And the name was Ginger Pfeiffer. We won. But I continued doing help in Springfield, Ohio for everybody. So one day I got a notice and it said, would you please report down to the courthouse? So I went down to the courthouse, and it was the income tax man. And he was a black man. And he said, now, Mr. Bollettieri, I'm going to ask you some questions. All I want you to say is, I don't know. I don't know. So he said, you have a Pontiac. How did you pay for that? I don't know. He said, you go away on some vacations. How do you pay for that? I don't know. Well, make a long story short, I got a refund. And I tried to build a swimming pool. But as I left, he said, Nick, you've done a lot for people. And that's what life is about, is doing things for people. I truthfully believe that this program starts slow. Develop a brand, a system. I was the first to start the first living academy of the world. They said I was crazy. Yes, I was partially crazy because only crazy people are willing to put it on the line to be the best of the world. You developed a system. Once you have this system, that's called a brand. Then you go into other towns. That's how you do it. You go too quickly, forget about it. I told Bob, with his permission, I'll talk to Prince and see if we can't get Prince involved with rackets and balls. But remember, everybody, go slow. When you see a young boy or girl come to that program that's distressed, not happy, follow up on it. Call them on the phone. And what keeps boys and girls interested today is having some success in what they do. They'll come back. That's why the little 10 and under program with smaller rackets, softer balls is very important, because the child can get to hit the ball, go home and tell mommy and daddy had fun. I also suggest that on the weekends, whenever possible, invite the parents to come down and see the simple exercises that you can do. I'm honored to be part of the program. Bob is my man. I used to give him all the ideas. He'd do the writing, but Nick Bollettieri takes the credit. That's what's made Nick. But I've never forgotten where I come from North Pelham, blacks, Italians, and Irishmen. And there's nobody more important in the world than anybody else. But what's important is what people do for other people. My wife and I just adopted our second son, 6 weeks with us from northern Ethiopia. He joined our first son of 2 years with us from southern Ethiopia. What do I ask of our two sons? Make sure you do something for two other children, that they have the same opportunity that you have. So I want to thank the hospital for hosting this. I want to thank Bob and all of you in attendance. And the one gripe I have is my two sons have a better tan than I do, and I don't like that. God bless you, everybody.
Let me just briefly talk a bit about the program that we plan to present. We're using tennis as the vehicle. As Nick said, this is not a program designed in any way, shape, or form to produce a champion. With the best of circumstances, if you found the best athlete in the world and he had an unlimited supply of money, he probably wouldn't make it as the best tennis player in the world. So that's not even part of our agenda. But what we do want to do is give kids an opportunity. We want them to learn about preventive health, as I said. We want them to learn about the perils of drug abuse. We want them to learn about nutrition and staying healthy and treating their body as the temple it's supposed to be. And in that regard, we are thrilled, silly, to have Manatee Memorial Hospital as a partner in this project. They are arguably the key ingredient in our project. While we are going to offer mentoring and we are going to offer many different components of this program to the children, the hospital program is probably the key ingredient. So on that note, I'd like to introduce the Vice President of Marketing and Business Affairs for Manatee Memorial Hospital, Mr. Vincent Desir. Vernon Desir.
Okay, I'll take Vincent. Wow. Thank you, Nick. We're glad to be a part of this. I mean, anything that comes together with people that are friends, committed to youth, and you're using the words like opportunity and hope, how can that not be something that you want to just jump in and do with, with every fiber of your being? Our facility and the staff that we have here are thrilled about this prospect and being able to make sure that kids, the people that we'll be working with, know everything they need to know in preparation for physical activity, and that we make sure that they're safe. We're learning every day now that athletes find out often too late that something's just not going well. So our goal is to make sure that we check people out and that we see what's going on in their lives, and that if they're not familiar with healthcare and specifically preventive healthcare, that there's those things that we can offer them to help them have a better life, condition them better, prepare them better for whatever physical activity they choose to participate in. So we're, again, delighted. We love all of the organizations that are involved in this. It's just something that's very, very exciting for us. And we really like this guy here, too. So again, how could you not be excited about this particular endeavor and what it's going to do, what it's going to accomplish? So thank you for allowing us the privilege of being involved. Thank you.
Let me take this opportunity to introduce some of the people in attendance that are playing a big role in the project. First, let me introduce the director of, well, you already met Mr. Albert Tucker, who's the executive director of the American Tennis Association. Tony Stevens is the athletic director at the Palmetto Youth Center. Patrick Carnegie is the executive director of United Community Centers, and his right arm is sitting next to him, Ms. Drina. Allison Hewitt, who is the executive director of Central Economic Development Center. Ms. Extavia Bailey and her colleague down there. Extavia is the Youth Services Director for the NAACP, the Manatee branch of the NAACP, as well as the facilitator for the AmeriCAN program. We have Reverend Stan Pavkovich, who is the pastor at one of our sites, Church of the Cross in Bradenton. And let me see, we have the next superstar tennis player on the horizon, Miss Alexis Jones sitting down there. She's one of the top American prospects in the world of tennis today. And if you look on the front page of my website, you'll see Alexis standing there with Destiny, trying to teach Destiny how to hit a forehand. With a big head like that, it's not so easy, folks. Alexis's dad, Dana, who has been a big supporter of our program and is guiding Alexis toward superstardom, we hope. And I guess I would be terribly remiss if I didn't thank Steve Knopick, who is the CEO of Bell's, for stepping forward and encouraging us to offer our urban health net. By the way, I didn't mention, but our relationship with the hospital is called Urban Health Net, a partnership for children. And Steve encouraged us to not only offer the Urban Health Net program to the children in our 10 and under tennis program, but to all of the children in the various youth centers, so that when one of the doctors or the nutritionists come by the youth center, everybody has access. It's not just the 10 and unders who may not even understand a great deal, but everybody, all of the youth and the teenagers in the youth center. And last but not least, I would like to thank the manager of the Manatee Educational Television, who has been a tremendous supporter of the Panda Foundation and all things to do with youth in Manatee County. And that's Charles Clapsaddle behind the camera back there. So all of you, I thank you so much. Are there any questions that we're willing to take questions right now if you'd like to ask anything? Yes, sir.
How can people find out about enrolling their child in this program?
Well, the children need, this is a community-based program. So as I said, the Palmetto Youth Center is one of the sites. The United Community Centers is another one of the sites. And Church of the Cross is a third site. That we hope to have a fourth site, but we are not ready to announce it yet. But very simply, to contact the directors of any of those centers and ask to participate. It's that simple. Any other questions? How could I forget this? Back in early 1990s, we launched a program. As Nick told you, we launched a program in Newark, New Jersey. One of our early programs was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And as I said, that program saved lives. The gentleman that will be running our second program, which is launching in Fort Lauderdale, is Chris Sands, seated right here and just raised his hand. Chris ran that program and will lead this program. So we bring a great deal of experience to the Fort Lauderdale program in its launch as well. And finally, the gentleman that is not here is a gentleman named Denny Morrow, who will be leading the charge in the Manatee County program. So if there are no further questions, if there are any, I'm willing to happily accept them. If not, did I introduce the Vice President of the Panda Foundation, Ms. Tanya Lakowiak, who also happens to be the love of my life, my daughter. So did I forget anyone? Yes, and last but not least, this wonderful guy here, Destiny's real name is Steve Munier, and he's great. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody. Yes, that is a very important question. What is the cost per child? $3,000. No, it's free. The program to the children is absolutely without cost. Okay, our sponsors are going to pick up the cost of the program, and it will be offered at the centers at no cost. Okay. Al?
Just wanted to, while we had a chance, we had Alexis here, and the Panda can come as well. Many of you, again, as Bob had indicated a couple of weeks ago, they were on the cover talking about the program here in this community. But what we'd also like to talk about, when you talk about the American Tennis Association and the reach that we have, the primary focus, again, is on the community. But the next level of what we're also doing is player development. Many of you know, who understands the sport of tennis, it's always a barrier in many cases when you have young, talented African-American players that want to get to the next level, because in most cases it's cost prohibitive. So what we're going to do with the American Tennis Association in support of players such as Alexis Jones is to ensure that she has the mechanism behind her, not only from a financial perspective, but from a village perspective. And when I say village, the American Tennis Association, back in the days when Arthur Ashe and Althea Gibson was out on the, I call, trailblazing, as they were traveling around the country, all of that came because people around the country supported them wherever they went. We have to go back to that same concept again, because if we don't have the village behind players such as Alexis, it's very cost prohibitive. So we'd like to announce at this time that because of our program here in Bradenton, we were allowed to meet a young lady like Alexis, and we've committed from an organizational perspective to give her the appropriate guidance in terms of financial support where we can, but most importantly, whatever leadership and support that we can provide for her around the nation, and as she travels abroad, to make sure that we're there for her. So that's part of what our program is all about. So I'd like to first thank her so much, because when we first came down there, I didn't even know who Alexis was, but she gave of her time, which a lot of young people don't do anymore. She gave of her talent, which a lot of people don't have anymore. So we're trying to do is make sure that we emulate what she has as a young lady and take this across the nation with destiny and with the message that Bob has created here in Bradenton. So again, we thank Bradenton so much for being the top of the line community that supports, understands, but most importantly, embraces such a program around this nation. So thank you so much for Bradenton being here again. And thank you.